Of course, yes. And while she's setting that up, if you haven't had a chance yet, go ahead and put your contact information in the chat. So, you know, people can copy it down and you can connect outside of the meeting.
It says host disabled, participant from screen sharing.
Do you see where it is in the settings, Chloe?
Oh, did you? Here, show me.
Got to get her engineer.
There we go.
That's all participants.
Okay.
She's got it now, so.
Okay. I'm at the recap. That's not the right place to be. Technology, and I'll get rid of all the writing here in a second. So before I start with, why are you doing this? Sorry guys, technology. Why?
No worries, take your time.
It's not going to the top.
Well, click on slideshow, and then a lot of times it'll say from the beginning. It'll give you that option.
Okay.
Yeah, from the beginning. There you go.
There you go. Thank you.
This stuff is my jam, so I'm gonna mute myself so I'm not going, yeah, ooh, yeah.
So real quick, a little bit about me and why I'm talking about emotions. So I am known as the road nurse. I was in the nursing profession for over 25 years, and through some of my own health challenges, discovered that what we call healthcare is not healthcare, it's sick care. And there's a time and a place for it, and I'm very grateful for it, but really approached my own wellness and saw some changes through making lifestyle changes. I became a certified health coach, and then got introduced to essential oils, whole food supplements, which were a really wonderful adjunct to what I teach. And so when we look at our health, there are many aspects. And when you use the holistic, the word holistic, you have to look at everything that's going on in your life, not just the physical, but the emotional, and understanding that the emotional also affects the physical. So you can't separate the two. And so I started reading more about emotions as a nurse. I love the chemistry, and there's a lot of really interesting chemical reactions that are happening in our body on a daily basis. We don't think about it, but there are all kinds of hormones and neurotransmitters and all kinds of things happening as we're sitting right now. And these can be affected by many things. They can be affected by what's going on in your environment. So emotions are a complex reaction to stimuli, and they differ from person to person. What I may see as a negative thing, like, oh, I posted yesterday, I was on the beach and there was this sunrise. People go out to see the sunrise and they hope to see this orange ball of sun coming up in the world. It was cloudy, and what you could see was a little bit of different colors, and people might have looked at that in a negative light. I saw it as something beautiful. So it's our perception is a big part of that. So when you talk about emotions, there's obviously positive emotions, happy, but we sometimes get overwhelmed in our life. We have work, and we have our health, and we're tired, and we're fat, our finances, and we're overwhelmed. And all of that actually has an effect on the chemicals that are happening in our body. They affect cortisol and serotonin, and it happens to work with that fight or flight reaction. I know that many of you have heard of multiple times, where we feel like we're constantly being chased by that tiger. These are, in the right situation, positive. If you have your hand and you are going to put it on a hot stove, you want that reaction of pulling it back. You don't want to just leave it there and say, oh, this is not affecting me. So you're going to end up hurt. But if you keep on having the hot stove and somebody punching you and everything, it's going to create this cascade of negative emotions that are happening in our body. And obviously, negative emotions can impact the quality of our life. So when you're looking at emotions, there are a lot of things that are affected. They say that our body has 3 brains. There's the mind, the heart, and the gut. So I know that when you are feeling negative emotions, think about sometimes where you feel them. Do you feel them in your heart? Your heart hurts, your heart's broken. Do you feel them in your gut? You're very nervous. Do you actually feel them in your throat, where you might not be able to speak because you're so nervous? And then obviously there is the mind. And so there is a connection between those 3 areas. And as I said, there is some evidence that they actually describe that as the 3 brains because of the way that the neural pathways work between those 3 areas. One of the most important areas that they are looking at now, that people are looking at now, is what is known as the gut-brain axis. We are learning so much about the microbiome, the microbiota. Some people say that we are, rather than humans with microbiome with a human experience, because there are thousands of them on our skin, which is why one of the things I talk a lot about is chemicals and how that's being hurt. That's another topic for another day. But it is related. We're doing war on our microbiome. So very important that looking at the balance of what we eat. You've heard of the expression food and mood. The balance of the probiotics in our system. Lots of sugar and processed foods are going to affect that and affect our ability to deal with stress. When you're off balance in your gut, you don't have the ability to deal with things as well as you can. So some of the neurotransmitters that become very important are GABA, serotonin, dopamine, and actually melatonin is a hormone, not a neurotransmitter. And so that's one of the reasons when people tell me they're taking melatonin for sleep, I actually caution them about that because it is a hormone and you can imbalance it by taking too much. These are things that are affected in our body by food. GABA, one of the things that you can get GABA from some of the things that many people are avoiding right now, like whole grains and nuts and seeds and beans, and people who are, on these paleo. And again, I'm a believer that there's not one right diet for everybody, that we have to look at what affects us the best. But some of these whole foods, and understanding that, when we're avoiding things, it's the processed things that are affecting us. So you can get GABA from those whole foods. Serotonin, actually, you can't get from food. It is an interconnection with tryptophan. Tryptophan then helps the body to create serotonin. And then you have heard of the dopamine receptors in your brain. All of those things, again, are going to affect mood. It's going to affect sleep, which then again affects mood. So it's this big cycle of getting things balanced. So how do you keep your emotions positive? So things like hobbies, staying active. Exercise is a big one, where they have shown that exercise releases some of these hormones and works on our endocannabinoid system, which is a whole nother talk. Mary would agree with me on that. And a lot of plants affect that endocannabinoid system. Sharing your feelings and talking, meditation, taking some time for mindfulness and to quiet our minds. We have learned a lot about biofeedback and changing those. There's a lot of what's known as neuroplasticity in the brain. And so there's a lot of those things that mindfulness and meditation can affect. Proper diet and supplementation. I'm a big proponent of proper supplementation. There are supplements that can increase those neurotransmitters. I take something that increases GABA, feel a huge difference. I have no idea what I wrote there. Balancing something, but and aromatherapy. So we all know that I am a big lover of essential oils. So I'm happy to do something for you right now. Normally, I would be passing around an oil right now if we were live, but I can't do that. So I'm going to have you take a moment, and I'm going to have you close your eyes. And I'm going to have you imagine peeling an orange. Take a deep breath and smell that orange. The juicy, sweet, sunny smell of that orange. And think about where that takes you in your mood and how that affects your mood. So sit with that for a minute. That is how aromatherapy works. It changes our mood, and different plants have different emotional effects. Another thing that's very important is understanding your reactions and what your beliefs are. How, we get overwhelmed and trying to figure out and process our beliefs as to what is going in our head. And one of the things about aromatherapy is it can take the emotion in the moment, and it can change that moment so that you can take that minute of pause and change what's going on with that sense of smell. Sense of smell is attached to the amygdala. And the amygdala is our emotion center in the brain. I always joke because people will tell me they love the smell of frankincense. And then I'll talk to somebody who says, I was made to go to church when I was a little girl, and that smell of frankincense just is awful. So it has a lot to do with memory, and it has a lot to do with how it affects that emotion. So what is emotional therapy, and how do you use it? It, again, has a sense of smell, and the oils come from the trees, the plants, the leaves, the seeds, the bark of the oil, and they are extracted from steam distillation or cold pressing. And emotional aromatherapy can be as simple as putting a drop of oil in your hand and breathing it in, or having a diffuser in the background to change the effect of what you're feeling. It can affect and promote positive emotions. So, you know, different oils, as I said, have different chemistries. This is just a quick primer of the types of chemistry. And for me as a nurse, that's one of the things that speaks to me about essential oils is the chemistry. These are some of the things that they have. Mints have alcohol, citrus aldehydes. Most of us aren't interested in that chemistry at all. So let's look at other ways to look at this. So herbs and grasses are great oils. We look at this wheel when to use when you're feeling disconnected or bitter or angry. So herbs and grasses might be things like vetiver is a grass, peppermint is an herb, the mint families, any of the oregano, that's another one mixed with other things that might affect our mood when we're feeling bitter or angry. Spice oils, when we're feeling somber, disinterested, or bored. So if you think about feeling somber, disinterested, and bored, think about what spices do. They're going to spice up your life. They're going to make you feel invigorated. Something like cinnamon or cassia is a very uplifting oil. You think about when you're cooking. I know I love to cook with fresh herbs because when I'm chopping them, you get that aroma, you get that smell, and it just makes you feel happier. Spice essential oils, again, when you're feeling somber, disinterested, and bored. Citrus. So when you're feeling discouraged, gloomy, distressed, if you think about citrus, I always look at oils when people are say to me, I don't know which oils to choose. I have them think about the properties of the oil. Where do citrus grow? They grow high up in a tree. So I think of them as uplifting. Whereas things like tree oils or root oils are down in the ground. So they're going to be more grounding and calming in that way. So it's very easy to start thinking about, oh, what do I need? What am I feeling and what do I need? And how can I change that mood? Tree oils, which I just mentioned, are one of my favorites. I love any of the grounding oils, changing that scent. And, you know, one of the things about oils, especially grounding oils, I mentioned meditation as a way to deal with your emotions. Combining essential oils with your meditation is kind of like that double whammy of getting you centered, of taking a deep breath and holding that in and changing where you are, taking that moment to change where you are. Mint oils, again, are stimulating. They're going to help you when you're feeling apathetic or insecure and anxious. So peppermint, spearmint, those are all really good stimulating oils. Floral oils. And these are, again, some people love the smell of rose. Some people love the smell of lavender. Some people say that rose smells like an old lady. They don't love the smell. But the thing about the oils also is they have different vibrations. And things like rose oil is one of the highest vibrational substances on the planet. So that rose oil, which is why a good rose oil is very expensive. It's going to change. I use my rose over my heart all the time. It is one of those that just connects to the heart chakra. It is calming in that way. Lavender, everybody has heard of lavender and how calming it is. Lavender is very high in something called linalool, which is actually one of the reasons I love doTERRA, because I've learned that linalool is one of the easiest things that is synthesized out there. And so you want to be really cautious not to have synthetically derived oils, because you're going to get a whole different experience from them. They may even have a negative effect on your body. So you want to find something that is tested for its purity and tested to make sure these chemical compounds are there and doing what they say they're going to be doing. Floral oils also help with fear and worry and hurt. Because sometimes it's complicated, you have blends, not only from doTERRA, other companies also, but you have blends that have been put together, and doTERRA has created this wonderful wheel that I work with people on that allows you to identify what you're feeling and what oil blend you might benefit from. So again, in combination with other things that you're doing and how you start your day, these are great tools to use to help us support our emotions and change the moods that we're feeling. So besides for, as I said, good food, exercise, supplementation, these are a great tool, and I always talk about my tools to change how we feel in the moment and throughout the day. So some tips on how to use essential oils. In the morning, you can apply them to your pulse points. You can massage it into your hair. Stimulating oils like rosemary and peppermint and spearmint are a really great way to start your day by massaging them into your hair. You're doing two things there. You're also giving self-massage of any kind is a really great way to have that contact, self-contact. It also increases blood flow and helps with things like the lymph flow. So in Ayurveda, I don't know if anybody is familiar with Ayurvedic practices. They suggest starting your morning every day with self-massage, with starting at the bottom of your feet and just giving a little love to the parts of your body that you have, every single part of them. And taking a little oil, you can take essential oils. I know that you can buy from some companies, Ayurvedic companies, you can buy infused oils that help with that lymph flow. But it's a great way to start your day before you're showering and then get into the shower or after you shower, to give yourself a little love and also help with that circulation. Midday, when we're feeling, tired or not so motivated, especially when we're working from home these days and another Zoom call. You might, as I said, apply the oils over your heart or diffuse them in the background to help with concentration and uplift mood. Orange and peppermint are amazing for mood and concentration. There's actually a teacher who did a study in her classroom where she diffused orange and peppermint in the back of her classroom and discovered that her kids were concentrating better and having better positive mood just from that one thing that she did. And in the evening, diffusing near your bed. So things like lavender, chamomile, vetiver. I also rub my oils into my feet before I go to bed. It's just a good way to wind down. And we all know the other thing that changes mood is gratitude. And we can never forget gratitude. And, you know, really, really taking the time to think about what you have, and gratitude for me changes everything. And putting things in perspective is huge for mood. And, you know, again, when our bodies are in balance, when our guts are in balance, those are all things that are going to affect the way we feel in the long run. To recap, any questions, first of all, before I do my recap? Negative emotions can have a negative effect on your health. It's our stress, and I see stress and negative emotions as almost two different things. Stress is when you are constantly on the go and never giving yourself any downtime. Emotions are a perspective of how you see things and how you feel things. And, you know, I don't want anybody to ever think that emotions are a bad thing, because they're a good thing. You all know that in the beginning of April, my mom passed away. If I were not able to work through my grief, and experience my grief and allow myself the space to feel that grief, I would say there was something wrong with me. I would say there was a problem. The problem also becomes, though, when that grief is not dealt with and it is affecting everything. So if you found me curled up in a ball, not coming to the 1099 meetings, not doing anything, not getting dressed, then please come check on me, because there's a problem. So there's healthy emotions, and we have them. We have them as an experience in life. And so don't ever feel like you shouldn't feel an emotion. You shouldn't feel angry. The world is angry right now with what is going on out there in our world. And you know, it's how do you take that emotion and use it in a healthy way so that it is not affecting everything else around you. Balanced gut health. Foods, supplements to improve GABA and serotonin, I think, can be essential. As I said, especially started after my mom died, I started on one of our supplements that increases GABA, and it's a blend of oils and herbs and amino acids. My brain was like going, okay, what's it called? An amino acids. I know somebody who works specifically with amino acid therapy to help people balance their amino acid health. So you can get testing to see what is off. Or you can try some of the supplementations, basic supplementation, to see if that doesn't help. Essential oils can promote positive emotions, and the specific line that I work with identifies the negative emotions, identifies the essential oils that can match those emotions. And that is some of my tips and some of the tools that we can use to help with our emotions. Comments, questions?
Mary, did you have something you wanted to ask?
Oh, I just noticed cardamom on there, and I had never thought of cardamom as a, I love it in my coffee, and I love it with cooking, and it's just, I bet when I saw it up there, I was like, oh.
So it's interesting that when you get really deep into, and that's one of the things I do, is I help people to discover what is going to work best for them and what they're feeling, what they need. There is a book which is back home that is Essential Oil and Emotions. And every single oil has an emotional component to it that can help us to change the way that we feel. There are oils that the oil for grief, the oil, orange oil is also known as the oil of abundance. And so you can work with tools like that, the book, and I can send you the title of that book so that you understand that every oil has a connection in some way with our emotional health. And combining them, finding out sometimes what works for you. Lavender by itself is not an oil I love, but we have a blend called Serenity, which is lavender and cedarwood and chamomile, and that combination for me is just brings me from here to here in seconds. So it's finding what works for you and having somebody like me to guide you as you're looking for those things.
Well, I have a question. So a lot of those oils are things that we eat, like the spice you just mentioned. Are there any essential oils we should not eat?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am not ingesting wintergreen. I am not ingesting a lot of the, I'm trying to think of blue tansy. There are quite a few oils that you don't want to be ingesting. So with doTERRA, they have a supplement fact on the bottles that you can ingest. And even with that, there is caution that you have to do. I am not dropping oregano down my throat because it's going to burn. It's very caustic. But there are ways that you can benefit from ingesting that particular oil, which is, got really good antimicrobial effects. And really good for our gut health, and there's a time that you want to use that, but there's a safe way to do it.
Good to know.
And you want to make sure that, again, the company has vetted that there's, not any chemicals, not any pesticides and things like that. But, yeah.
Effie, does it make a difference? Sorry, was somebody else?
I'm sorry?
Does it make a difference whether the oils are organic or not?
So I don't like the term organic for the reason that to have a farm certified organic is very difficult. So I want to know that my oils are grown in the indigenous area that they come from. And so on small farms, and there's a way to not label them organic, but yet test to make sure there are no pesticides and chemicals. So there's a difference in that certification. If a farm is, all the farms on all the oils are organic, then they are not necessarily grown where they grow in nature, and they're it's a difficult process to certify them organic. So for me, organic doesn't necessarily mean pure.
I actually heard a guy at the farmers market say that there are a lot of farmers who follow the organic rules, but they can't afford to pay for the certification.
Absolutely.
So the produce, and that's here local, right downtown on NC State campus.
Absolutely.
He's like, oh, my strawberries organically, but I just can't afford to pay for that credential. It's very expensive. but he gave me his word, blah, blah, blah. So I imagine he's not the only small farmer that is up against that. Wouldn't you say, Deb?
Absolutely. I've had many conversations with farmers that we've talked about how their growing practices. I purchased at the farmers market. There's a little farm. They're just a couple of acres. They're just starting out. They're humble, and had that conversation with him. And he's like, it's just me and my wife, and we're trying to start to make a living. The cost for organic certification is prohibitive.
I'm going to say that with growing like hemp, because I also work with CBD oil. What I understand is that farms have to go through a process of going through certain standards for 5 years before they can get the certification of being organic. It's really not just the cost of certification, but there's all that. You have 5 years of having to, I don't know, amend your soil or whatever, not use chemicals. So it's a long process. And I think if you say your oils are tested, I mean, that's why they have organic. They're tested for heavy metals and pesticides and all those things. I think that says a lot about the company. So.
But if you can also imagine, we get our oils from all over the world, and pink peppers from the African continent. Can't remember the exact Nigeria. And a little farm in Nigeria is not going to be able to get an organic certification. So, when you have somebody who says organic, or that, they control the growth of their oils, then, that they have their farms here, and you're losing some of the qualities. And you can get oils in Florida, lemon. You can get lemon in Florida, you can get it in Italy, you can get it in California, and they're all going to have different components to them. They're all going to have different chemical constitutions because of the soil, the air, the water. So, you want somebody I want somebody who looks at that and is going to give me the best quality for my body, the best choices for my body.
So just as a follow-up to that, Debbie, this is really helpful. But as a consumer, how do I know which hasn't got pesticides in it and all that stuff? Because coming from UK, everything.
I am from Deb.
Sorry? Buy them from Deb, yeah.
There's certifications. They're just testing, like third-party testing. I'm sorry, Deb, I shouldn't have talked about it.
Go ahead, please.
Looking for that third-party testing is really important. I come from a background of medical research, and that testing is really, really important, and having it like an independent source. And I know doTERRA has that testing. Looking for thorough testing, not just 1 or 2 parameters, but really thorough testing is important. Sorry, did I just talk about
they test on 7.
Sorry,
You're wonderful. I love you. They test on 7 different levels. So they're not only they're testing for the chemicals, they're testing for the pesticides, they're testing for all of those things, but they're also testing, as I said, you saw the chemistry. Linalool is something that we want to calm our body. This linalool grown in this area has how much linalool? What is the level of the linalool, and how does that affect our body? So that is one of the things that not very many companies do. They may test on a few levels. They may test for, they may say they're organic, but do they test on all those different levels? This company has been involved in a ton of research on oils, working with the medical community to create efficacy on their oils. You look at the different plant species, you look at the parts. I know that I saw a lavender essential oil that said that it came from the flowers and stems. So that tells me that they're using parts of the plants that are not quite as potent, or they don't have the same effect.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, but I wanted to share that, you know, we just had the full moon, and the full moon brings a lot of energy, and I have this blessing and this curse that when the full moon comes, I get like downloaded with ideas, but sometimes my brain will just keep going, and you know, it's like one, it's two, it's and so you know, obviously lavender we know about for calming, but when you pair that with basil just shuts your brain up, and it is like, it's almost like chloroform sometimes. It's like you just need a little bit and right out you go. So it just, you know,
And
being
it's
able to
delicious.
use that to have that harmony and to stay in balance with, you know, all the things around you.
Oh, yeah, and again, you know, with the deep breathing and stuff, as you're breathing sense in, it just has a calming effect, and it affects the chemical balance in your body. Lavender is one that they've actually tested that it decreases the cortisol level in your body, on physically. I mean, you can test your blood, be high in cortisol, and then use lavender and test your blood again, and you see a chemical difference in your blood of what it does, and those changes that they make. So huge. It's not just, what's the word that I want, Mary? What's the word that I want? It's not just anecdotal. There's actually proof that these chemicals change in our body.
It's not just surface or superficial.
Yeah.
It's actually a systemic change.
Right, exactly. So my offer to you guys, a couple of offers. We'd love to sit down one-on-one and learn more about what you can benefit from. And lately I've actually been offering to send out samples to people, because you can have an experience. And I love to find something that, you know, maybe you're struggling with sleep, or you're struggling with, you know, overall stress. I'd love to send you a sample, so I'm going to put my information. Just reach out to me, and I'd love to help you with that. Any other questions?
Debbie, did you just add your info to the bottom again?
I did.
You did it to me privately. Sorry, I had sent you a message and went privately. Sorry, I was going to tell you. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody sees it.
Okay.
So I don't see how to save the chat, because it's different than when I'm on the computer.
So.
You know how to do that, anybody?
I do, yeah.
Linda, if you just go where it says file next to, at the bottom where you type in, there's 3.
It's not there. I know.
Really?
Because so I'm on my iPad, and all it has there is send. It doesn't have that 3-dot option like on the computer. That's why I was asking.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that our mobile devices act differently.
Yeah.
If there's anything else.
The last thing I'm going to say about mood and emotion is being outside and being in nature is so important. Every day.
I would agree with that, because when flowers are blooming, like the roses, there's a bunch of rose bushes in our complex here, and when they're blooming, you're just like, and the honeysuckle.
Tastes
Gardenia,
good.
think of the smell of rose.
I know one of my favorite things to do is get a cup of Kahlúa's tea and sit in the garden and just sip it and breathe deeply, like my own little special time. It's only like 15 or 20 minutes, but it's a total game changer. It makes the whole day lovely when you start a day like that, you know?
And that's aromatherapy there because the herbs that Kahlua uses all have, when you add the hot water, that steam that's going to smell is going to be there. So you're creating your own little steam aromatherapy there.
Yeah, you should promote that, Kahlua.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you know, I think I
Aromatherapy.
showed you the little tea set I have with, it was like Chinese tea set where they would have one little cup that was a little taller and then another one that's a little shorter, and it's a sniffer cup. So you would pour it in, you put the top on, and then you flip them, you take the taller one and you just sniff, and then you drink the tea out of the other one. And just that whole sniffing of the herbs and the tea just gives you this big uplifting, you know, oomph, this boost.
Yeah. Aroma's a big factor in our lives.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Great job.
Thank you, guys.
That was wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for all that information.
Thank you. Yeah. I love the chemistry, and my nursing background really loves the chemistry and loves the science. So
Yeah, it's so funny when you feel, sort of pulled towards something, but then all that scientific research backs it up and you just completely nerd out.
Deb and I had a good one-on-one last week, and we really got to talk science geeky to each other. It was great. I liked it.
Great. Wonderful. Well, so next week we have Mary's friend will be speaking to us. So she's an author and a speaker, and she's going to be teaching us about the secret sauce. So that should be a really good one not to miss. And I am going to stop recording.
I did have a quick question just because I'm new and this is my first